What's up everyone, this is your boy MTJ, so I'm back with another tutorial. If you are new to this YouTube channel, just like, subscribe and then hit that notification bell so that whenever we upload new content you can be updated as soon as we upload it. Okay guys, today's tutorial is all about JavaScript crash course. What we'll be doing, we'll be working with JavaScript introduction, variables, let, const, and then the data types that JavaScript has, and then some functions, and then objects, and then events. So yeah guys, and then we'll also work with arrays. I forgot to type that out, but I'll fix that. You can find the GitHub repo on the description below. So let's just get started. Let's go through the JavaScript introduction. So I'm just gonna make an app.js and then I want to preview that on the side. So let's go through it. So we've got JavaScript introduction. JavaScript is a scripting or programming language that allows you to implement complex features on the web pages. So JavaScript, the main use of JavaScript is to handle the user's interactions with the app or the web page. So that is what we use JavaScript for, and then it brings a lot of functionality, such as when a user clicks on a button and then something happens. It's either they submit the data from the form or you change into another web page. Let's say you are on the home page of a certain website and then you click on the about me or about us, and then it shows you the details of the company, which is the about of their company. So there are two different types of ways to link HTML with CSS. Okay, so we're gonna do a little bit of HTML and CSS so that you can get started, because we need this file so that we can work. The extensions that you're gonna need, it's called live server, so that you can be able to see your changes live on the browser. As you can see, if on your side it might appear like this, the install button might appear here, so just click on it and then you'll be good to go. And then guys, and then I'm just gonna make a simple HTML snippet, not snippet, just code, and then I'm just gonna say JavaScript and then crash course. So as we are about to get started, let's just view that on the browser, and then go to the browser and close the other tabs so that we can work well with this. So as you can see, we are on the browser and it's the written JavaScript crash course. So everything is working fine. But what we are missing is the linking of our CSS. Okay, I made a mistake here. It was not supposed to be CSS. It's supposed to be JavaScript. But because I made a mistake, I'll just fix it on the live, on the tutorial, and then we're gonna have maybe a CSS file so that I show you the difference in terms of how to link it. And then all you have to do on the href attribute, you can just say slash, and then as you can see, you'll say css.css. You can name your file anything, but usually the JavaScript, you can work with the JavaScript like this. That's gonna show you, and then I'm just gonna say alert, and then we're gonna say hey user, and then if we go to the browser, as you can see, hey user. If we refresh that, because it auto refreshes itself after I'm done saving, so as you can see it's working again. And then if I can just open the app.js and then say alert, right, and then I say alert a user from app, right, and then you go to the browser, nothing has changed. You still see hey user, but the second one you don't see. Okay, so let's just remove that so that you can see. And then now the difference is that we're gonna make a script tag with an attribute of source, right, with an attribute of source. as you can see there is source. So we can just say we can reference the file, so it's just slash and then app.js, and then if we save that and go to the browser, hey user from app, so as you can see that works fine. And I'm just gonna click on the OK button. So I'm just gonna remove this code right here, right? I'm just gonna remove this. For now, we're not gonna have anything on our HTML. We're gonna work with the console, our console on the browser. So we'll just go through this step by step, right? I think I've done this with the source attribute, as you can see. And then now in JavaScript, we've got variables. We use variables to store data so that we can use it later. And then the EG, which is the example that I've used, is that maybe we have a username called Jack. So user is going through our app, and then we have stored his username, right? And then maybe let's just say if we want to do something, or we want to keep track so that not everybody can have a user, so that each and everybody can have their own specific name. So variables are working that way. So for you to work with a variable, you just say var and then make the name, which is user, and then name. And then in JavaScript we use camel switch, capital letters. So the first word, it must be lowercase, and then after you are combining it with the second word, which is name, the first letter must be uppercase. So that is what we use mostly in JavaScript, but it's not a must. It's just a good practice. Just a good practice, guys. And then I'm just gonna say Jack. So this is Jack, and then maybe let's just say, let's go to the browser and then see if we can see the changes. You'll notice that we don't see anything, and then if we inspect that, and then go to the console, it's still the same, nothing is there. But if you want to use, maybe let's just say now we are using the user's name, right? And then just say console.log, and then we just console the username only, and then go back to the browser. And then if we refresh, as you can see Jack, and then it shows the line that brought this console, which is in the app.js line 3, right? And then as you can see, it's on line 3. So this is how we work with variables, and then there's a more good way that we can use, but for now, because we are dealing with the beginner's crash course, so I won't be showing you that here. So let's just say I want to use the username, and then I'm just gonna say hello. I'm just gonna say hello and then print out the username. So I'm just gonna say hello, and then it's gonna create Jack, right? So as you can see, hello Jack. Now the reason why we don't want to I know there's, maybe you might think that why don't we just say console.log hello, what you call, maybe Jack, right? And then let's say in our database we've got maybe around 30 people, so we'll have to manually type that. So let's just go to the browser. As you can see, this produces the same result, but the difference is that we are dynamically using this, and then instead of hard coding it or typing it yourself. Because if we've got Jack in our database, right, we've got Jack, and then maybe 2, and then what's the other one? Spidey, and then again who is okay, web dev. So if you go to the browser, you can see it's called hello Jack Spidey 2. And then now a simpler way might be a simpler way for you, so that I can show you what why we use the variables. So I'm just gonna so that I can separate that. And then I'm just gonna make this like this, and then maybe I might have I'm trying to think of a simpler way that I can show you in terms of how you would use that. I wanted to do the loop, but it's gonna confuse you now because we are not having that. So I think this way will work. And then we're gonna update the username, right? And then the variable can be updated or redeclared, right? And then the second user is what? It's into. Okay, it must be a string, and then it's into. And then again, username, we are redeclaring that. So we are assigning it different, we are reassigning it instead of the old value. So you'll see like when the changes take effect. And then the username, it's Spidey. Okay, it's Spidey. Sorry about that. It's Spidey. Right, it's Spidey. And then the other one, it's what? It's web dev, right? And then username is equals to web dev. And I'm just gonna delete this one and then go to the browser. As you can see, you might see same things over and over. So as you can see, it's hello Jack, hello Mto, hello Spidey, hello web dev, hello Jack, hello Mto, hello Spidey, and so on. So this is how you maybe use it, but in a much more simpler way, so that you can write less code. So that I can show you how to write less code. So how many names do we have? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then I'm just gonna make a variable and then call it counter, and then I'm gonna have 5, right? And then I'm just gonna say for loop. So we're gonna loop through that. We're gonna loop through that, and then we're gonna say I is equals to 0, and then I is less than. We're not gonna use the length. We're gonna just say counter. For now, just watch, and then you'll understand later. And then we're gonna just say console. We're gonna console console.log. We want to console.log this. I'm just showing you in terms of what it means to hard code stuff, and then like how to make things simpler with a few lines of code. Let me just delete that so that you can see. And then I'm just gonna, instead of saying Jack, I'm gonna use the plus and then the username. And then after I've done that, and then I'm gonna reassign the username to, and then maybe I might make a new statement, right? And then say if username, right? If username is equals to, okay, so let me just, okay, so I've just thought of a way, and then we can have, let's just say we've got a database, and then we've got names or users, and then is equals to an array, right? And then we have Jack, and then 2. Just sorry about that. And then it's 2, and then it's Spidey. After Spidey, it must be web dev, right? It's web dev, right? And then this is our list, right? And then I'm gonna declare this, and then I'm just gonna say tab, and then because this is starting at index 0, I'm just gonna say not assign it. Like I'm declaring a value but not assigning it. And then here I'm just gonna say console.log, and then instead of username, okay, let me just first declare it. I'm just gonna say username is equals to users, and then I'm indexing it. With I. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I need to change that to 4. And then the username, and then I'm consoling it the user, so it's gonna dynamically change. So that is how you would usually do things. And then if you go to the browser, cannot read property, reading 0. Where is it? Users. Okay, so the mistake was on my side. It's users. Making the mistake again. It's users, and then index of 0. And then if you go to the browser, as you can see, it's hello Jack into Spider dev, and then Jack into Spider dev. And then with that, just those lines of code, you can even print thousands of data, because if you can just multiply that by 2 and then re-add that, so you are dynamically doing things instead of manually typing it yourself, which will take a lot of your time, right? And then if I can just refresh here, okay, so I think it's 8 now. The values must be 8. As you can see, it's Jack, and then it's times 2. So that is how you would work with variables. But the variable is just a sort of like a thing that we can use to store data, such as a string, a number. We can store anything, a function. We can store anything with a variable. You just have to follow the syntax. The syntax there, such as maybe just say I want to add a username again. I'm just gonna use the same. I can't just say Jack. Jack must be in a quote or double quote, because that is gonna break. It's gonna say Jack is not defined, right? And then let's go to the let variables. Let variables are, I could say on my side, I see them as like the exact variables, but their main function is that we can change data later. So it's like we can change data later, similar to variables. Also, variables can change data later, but variable was not, the keyword called var was not designed to be reassigned or redeclared. So maybe when time goes on, it's gonna give us an error when we try to do that like this. var username, maybe later, I'm not sure, just telling you my predictions. It's gonna give us an error when we try to say maybe username is equal to 2, and then now below I'm redeclaring it. I'm changing the value of username to 20. So maybe in the near future it's gonna give us what you call error. And then the let, all you have to do is just remove this var and then make the let. And then the let was designed for this, for redeclaring values. Anyway, you can just redeclare so how many times you like. So it's up to you to use that, but it's same as a variable, guys. So no need to stress. So it's up to you which one you use, but just for safety, you can use the let if you want to maybe have a dynamically value. And then now we come to the const variable. Now, the const variable is similar to the other variables, right? But now the difference is that it cannot be redeclared, right? So I'm just going to say const. And then I'm just going to use the same username is equals to, and then a string, and then I store check. And then I say console.log, and then sorry about that, username, right? If you go to the browser and then see on the console, everything is fine, it's working fine just like before. But now, if I try to say username, is equals to 20. As you can see here on our code, it's not recognizing that this is an error. You will see that this is an error. Username, right? And then if we go back to the browser, as you can see, type error, assignment to a constant variable. So we cannot reassign a variable called const, which is constant. So it's consistent, it cannot be changed. You have declared it, no changing it. Okay, so I think now you're comfortable with variables. Now we move to data types. Data types, we have about maybe 8 data types in JavaScript, or even more. But the usual that I use around 8. And then, but we focus on the 4 for now, because this is a beginner tutorial. Now we have a data type called a string, and then we have a data type called a number, and then we have a data type called a boolean, and then we have a data type called undefined, right? So a string is a data type that has characters such as A, B, C, D, but for it not to crash, we need to assign it a quote or double quote. It's up to you. So let me just show you. So we're gonna have I'm just gonna say console.log. I'm just gonna console a jack. So now jack is not defined. So if you go to the browser, and then as you can see, jack is not defined, which means this value, it's what? It's undefined, right? And then if we want to make it a string, we must add what you call quote jack. We must add quotes. And then if we go back to the browser, as you can see, it's working. And then if we go to the type of, and then we pass a string called jack, it's gonna tell us that this is a string, right? Okay, so okay, let me just store it inside a variable var, and then I'm just gonna say user name, and then I'm just gonna say jack. It's jack, and then there it is, and then we just need to remove the quote and then say username. Let me just say console.log, and then put that to remove this, and then put that here so that you can be able to see, and then go back to the browser, and then as you can see, jack, it's a string. So if now I try to write jack as it is without putting double quotes or single quotes, as you can see, it's an error. And then if I just take that back to being quote, it's gonna work. So this is the data type of a string, right? And we're gonna just make a number, var num is equals to 20, right? And then if we just say console.log num, and then console.log, and then you're gonna console what a type of what num, right? As you're gonna see that this is a number, but the difference is that once we say we just remove that and put a double quote or single quote, and then wrap that up into being a quote, and then you go to the browser, you'll see that it's now a string. You know why? Because we have converted it into a string by adding quote or double quote or single quote. It's up to you which one you want to use. And then now we've got a boolean value. A boolean value is a true or false value. there is only it's a boolean value, right? And let me just show you, go back here, and then I'm just gonna say console.log, and then I'm just gonna say type of, and then I'm just gonna say true, as you can see. And then if you go to the browser, as you can see it's boolean, which means it's true. The data type, it's a boolean, and then a boolean, we can store it inside a variable or inside of a let or in a constant or const. So you can just say state is equal to what? True. And then we remove the true that we wrote here, and then type state. And then if you go back to the browser again, same thing, it's a boolean, right? So this is how you would work with it. And then now, if I just say var, and then I'm just gonna make a variable, and then I'm just gonna call it none, and then I'm just gonna say like this, and then I'm just gonna say console.log type of, and then I'm just gonna say none, right? This variable is not assigned, so it's supposed to return what? Undefined, which means the variable is there, but we don't have a value for that. So this is how you would work with the data types. And then now the interesting part is that we've got the functions. Functions in JavaScript are sort of like a block of code that is designed to perform a particular task, right? So let's just say we have a function okay, let me just say I have around 3 values, right? I have 3 values, and then the first one I'm gonna call it first num, right? I'm just gonna, okay, sorry, variables cannot be numbers, so I'm just gonna say first num, and then I'm gonna store it to be 8, right? And then I'm gonna have a second, I'm just gonna say second num is equals to 10, and then third num is equals to 20. So all of these are variables that are storing our number data type. So now if we go under and then just say console.log, and then we're gonna just say first num plus sec num, and then multiply by third num, we're gonna get our value, right, which is 208, right? And then now let's just say we want to separate that code because we want to have a more clear and understandable code. That's where functions come in. You just say function, and then function is the first keyword that you must write. Always you must write it. And then the second is the name of the function. So I'm just gonna call it multiply. I'm just gonna call it multiply, right? And then I'm gonna have this. Okay, I can call it calculate for now so that I can show you. Calculate. And then that's when it's gonna return what you call, I'm gonna return first num, it was plus second num, sorry about that, multiply by what? Multiply by third num, right? And then we just say console.log. And then how do we call it? We call the name of the function, which is calculate, and then make the 2 brackets so that we can call it. And then as you can see, it returns a number. So if you go to the browser, and then as you can see, it's still 208, right? And in another way, like people would usually work with this is to pass parameters. Parameters are sort of like the what you call the data that we pass into our function so that you can work with it. So we can work with that like that. So just to show you, I'm gonna have a separate function that will multiply, and then a separate function that will add, right? And then I'm just gonna have what you call function. We're gonna have the first one, which is add data, which is gonna add the first variable and the second one, right? And then on the parameter, just like I said before, we pass data on the parameter whenever we are calling it, right? And then after that, we're gonna just say num1, right? Num1, and then comma num2. But you want and then this is gonna return what you call return num1 plus what plus num, and we're gonna go function that's gonna multiply, right? And I'm just gonna call this multiply that's gonna multiply our values, right? And then on the parameter, I need to have a total, which is the value that were added on the first function. And then I'm going to have num3 that I'm going to multiply with. And then I'm just going to say return total, and then I'm just going to say times num3. Yes. Right? And then what I'm going to do is that I'm just gonna call this, and I'm just gonna say var total amount, right? I'm just gonna say the total amount is what I'm gonna call the first function, right? I'm just gonna call the first function. Okay, the first I think I need to just store it inside a variable, and then add total so that you can get the add total, and I'm just gonna call add data, right? And then on the add data, I'm gonna pass 8 and 10, which is the first. The first must be always on the left, and then comma, and then what you call, and then 10. So if we do that, and then we say console.log what? We say console.log what? Add amount, right? This should return 18, because 8 plus 10 is 18, right? So it has added, and then we've got our amount. Now what you need to do is to call again the multiply, and then we're gonna pass the total, because we have the total here, and then we're gonna pass it here, and then pass the num3, right? And I'm just gonna say overall, right? And then t is equals to I'm gonna call multiply, and then I'm gonna pass add amount, and then comma, and then 20, and then I'm just gonna delete that because I'm no longer using it. I'm using functions. And then if we can just say console.log overall, so that you can get the total of all our. So as you can see, it's 360. That is how you actually work with that. And then another way we can work with that. Yeah, this is the way we can work with it. Just for simplicity, we'll say stick with this. And then I've got another thing that I would like to show you. In JavaScript, we've got the if statement, right? An if statement controls the behavior of the data. We just filter out data. So there's some, if for example, we've got a user logged in and then a user logged out. And then if the user is logged in, we're gonna just say you are logged in. And then if the user is not logged in, we're gonna just say you are not logged in. So we use that on the if statement, right? And then how we write the if statement is similar to a function, but we just say if, and then we write our logic here, if, and then I'm just gonna say true. And then on the parameters, you can see there, we've got true, right? This is gonna automatically run because it's true, right? And I'm just gonna say console.log true. And if you go to the browser, and then as you can see, it's true, it ran, right? It means it did run. And then on the else, it's making sure that if this fails, we're gonna execute this set of code right here, which is, I'm just gonna say tab console.log what you call false. I'm just gonna say false, right? And then if you go to the browser, nothing has changed. You know why? Because this is true. And then if we will change this to false, now this will run because this condition right here failed because it's false. As you can see, it's false. But now you would not work with this like this. You would work with that like 1 is equals to 1, which is obviously 1 is actually equals to 1. So it's gonna what? It's gonna say it's true. That's true. Okay. Let me just. You need to have 2 equals 2. So as you can see, that's true, which means in fact, yes, indeed, 1 is equals to what? 1. Remember, guys, you must use double equals so that you can compare data. So now let's just say is 1 equals to 2. So now it's gonna answer us with what? With the else, with the false statement. So as you can see, this is how we would work with that. And same thing compared to strings. It compares the strings characters. I'm just gonna say if A is equals to what? A. Right? And then if you go to the browser, it's gonna say true. Indeed, it's equals to that. And then if we say uppercase A, it's gonna say what? False. Because you know why? We are comparing a capital letter and a smaller case. So if I say B, it's gonna say again false. So that is how you would work with the if statement. There are many operators out there that you can use. So yeah. And then the last topic that I want us to discuss is the object. So an object is whereby we have, it's very similar to a variable, but the difference is that we have complex data using the key value pairs. So we've got the key value pairs there. So I'm just gonna say var and then obj, and then I'm just gonna make it like this, right? And then now we've got a key and a value, right? The key before, if you wanted to have variable name, we said var and then name is equals to, and then I just say check. I can't make like var age and then is equals to what? 20. I can't work like this. So I need to have an object that will store all the data for that specific user, right? And then I'm just gonna have, this is called a key, and then use the column, and then it's gonna store what? A name, right? Which is Jack, and then we add a comma to add another key value pair, right? So in all, this is a key value pair. So they are going in pairs. So this is equals to this. It's like a variable. And then here I'm just gonna have an age of what? Of Jack, and then I'm just gonna say it's 20. So I'm avoiding this process right here because I can't have many variables for all the users that I have on my system, rather than to have what? To have this object right here that can store the data for our users, and then I can just say 2, and then as you can see. Now, how do we work with this? We work with object using the dot notation to identify or to to get element or to get the key value pairs in our object. So I'm just gonna say console.log, right? I'm just gonna say obj1, obj2. So now let's just say we want to print out all the names of our users. We'll just say console.log what obj what obj dot what dot name, and then now we are using the dot name, so we are referencing on the key. So what's the key? It's the name, and then the variable of the object, it's obj, and then I'm going inside of the name, and then this should print jag. As you can see, it printed jag. But if I don't use the dot notation, it's gonna print the whole object as it is. So as you can see, this is the object, and then as you can see, I've got age and then name, which is jag. So this is an object on its own. Now, sometimes we just want to return the name of that user, and then that's where I'm gonna use the dot name, and then the dot name. Sorry about that. The dot name, and then maybe let's just make a plus sign to combine this, and then I'm just gonna say your age is what is and then I'm just gonna say obj dot what dot age. So that is how we work with the object in JavaScript. And then check your age is 20, so I need to add space to that and go back to the browser. Check your age is 20. Right, so this is how we would work with object, right? And then now that's where another topic called arrays comes in. We can't have all these obj1, obj2 variables that will store each and every day user for our data. Why don't we have an array that will store all of our data inside of what? In only one variable. So I'm just gonna say var, and then I'm gonna call this r, and then have that, right? And then if we go to the browser, right? If we go to the browser and then just say console.log the array, and then you're gonna see it's empty. And then now if you want to dynamically add data, let me just add data manually so that I can show you. I've added the data manually, so I've typed it. So if I can just say I've got only the one, which is name, Spidey, and then age. And then if I want to add the other data, I can do that manually by adding comma and then copying that again, which is it's jag, and then copy and then paste here. And then if I go back to the browser, I've got two values, one is Spidey and then the other is jag. And then if I want to dynamically add that, I have to say r and then dot push, and then what I'm pushing here is maybe I'm gonna push the obj one, right, to add that dynamically, and then I'm gonna push the other one. So I'm pushing it, and then I'm pushing obj1 too. And then if you go to the browser now, as you can see, we've got 4. All of them are there. The other ones we type them ourselves, and then the other ones we added them dynamically. So that is the power of arrays, right? And then I think let's just add things dynamically so that you can just see the simplicity. And then I'm just gonna say obj, right? It's obj and then obj1, obj2, which is yes. And then let me show you in terms of how to get the data on our array, right? And then the indexing part, that's where the array is tricky. The value that is here, so let me just show you with a simple example so that you can see. right? And then we've got what? The name check, right? And then we've got tool, and then I'm showing a different example. And then what? And then Spidey. So we have those three users in our array, right? And then we've got and then we're consoling that to the browser, and then we can check into and Spidey. And then if you want to get the tool, we'll just have to say make use of the bracket and then write the index of that element. So arrays start in the index 0 and then 1 and then 2. You can't say 1, 2, 3. If you say this is 1, it will print out in 2. So just to prove it to you, I'm just going to say 1. So you can see it printed in 2. So for you to get the first element, you just have to say 0, the 0 index. So as you can see, it got checked, right? And then if I want to get Spidey, I can just say 3. Okay, sorry about that. It's 2 because we don't have any the third one, which is the 4th in real life. As you can see, I've got Spidey, and then just to show you a more complicated example, right? So I've now added what? I've added the object again back to that, and then if I can just view that, and I've got Jack into Spidey, right? And then if I wanted to get Spidey, as you can see, there are 1, 2, 3, which means if I want to index them there, I'll have to use the brackets and then say at 0 if I want to get Jack, because that is the first. As you can see, I got Jack and then age. And then I told you before about the object. Object, you can reference them using the dot what? The dot name or the dot age, the key value pair that you want. So as you can see, printed Jack. And then now if I change this to 1, what should happen? It should give us 2, as you can see. And then if I change that to what? To 3, and then go back to the browser, as you can see, cannot read the property name because there's no data. And then if I say 2, that's when it's gonna print Spidey, which is the last item in our object. So this is the basic JavaScript part, and then I'm gonna do a second tutorial, and then that's when we'll be working with the JavaScript and DOM manipulation with the fun stuff. So yeah guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and then like and then share the content, and then that would be great if you can do that. So yeah, thanks guys. See you on the next tutorial guys. Peace.